Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Emerging Technologies in Business. Today I had the opportunity to speak with Rhyne, the CEO of ConveYour, whose suite of onboarding, training, and engagement tools helps employees scale faster and retain more. Enjoy. Hello tech friends, and thank you for tuning into Emerging Technologies in Business, where we take a deep dive into different technologies that are impacting businesses today and in the very near future. I'm your host Brock Rhyne, and this podcast is brought to you by Kincannon XR. Let's talk tech. Steven, how are you today, good sir?
I'm doing great. Doing really, really well. I've got a lot of birds out my window right now, so that's you.
Never a bad thing. That means the weather can't be that bad, right? If the birds are outside and chirping and having a good time. Yep. Either way, I really appreciate you being on the show today. So the first thing I really wanted to ask you is, Steven, with the expansion of employees that are working from home, how that's really gone up a lot since COVID has happened. Why have onboarding experiences become so crucial to our day-to-day employees?
I love this question, Brock. This actually brings me to this book that was sent to me, Running Remote. This is a phenomenal book, and there's like 3 tenets to the book that fit right into this question. And they are deliberate async communication, democratized workflow, and just better metrics, better data. And crucial onboarding comes down to basically realizing that you don't get the luxury of certain types of communication that you used to have when you're in an office building. So there are things like reading the expression of somebody's like on their face and going, "Oh, you didn't quite get how we do that here, huh? Let me explain that a little bit more." You don't get to infer that, right? You have to exquisitely communicate this stuff so that there aren't any of these. Wait, what did you mean by that, right? Right. You also have to be more empathetic about the fact that you can't just go blah and give them a lot of information. You have to strike a balance between making sure they feel like there aren't any dragons around the next corner, right? But then also provide them with kind of a hold your hand experience like through the process. And then you also don't get this other thing you don't get is you don't get to dip their feet into like the office culture at all.
Right.
And so a lot of things that are left out in crucial onboarding is like doubling down on why they're here. Why did they choose this role? Why are they going to enjoy being at the company? This is common, especially in like lower, like entry level business, roles where you do not have you do not have full buy-in with these people. These aren't like going to be the people that's expecting to be there for 5 years or 10 years with the company, right? And so the whole time you actually have to blur the lines between onboarding and recruiting and training, and make it feel more like they're getting getting resold on the role. Okay, and so the other thing about crucial onboarding is that it's not just for that person. All right. It's not just for the person that is being onboarded. It's also crucial onboarding experiences. Good experiences are also for the person the village, right, that is onboarding that person. So it takes a village. And you see that this is kind of bad sometimes, meaning, somebody in HR is shooting an email over this person. Hey, can you follow up with this new person that we're onboarding and make sure that they get this? Did they get their badge? Did they get this? Did they get that? And it is painful. And it can create what I call back pressure. So it's kind of a technical term, right? But it's like back pressure on the process. And middle management doesn't want to grow into pain. Like it's not their goal to add more people. It was the company's goal to add more people, right? Yeah. And so crucial onboarding isn't just for the person, it's for the manager. And so this comes down to democratize, back to the book here, democratize workflows, democratize workflows. And that is that everyone needs to be able to see like the whole process, right? For this person being onboarded, or at least see what they need to see and see the steps. And this can tend to be a thing of like one person or a few people that are onboarding, that are tasked with onboarding this person. They're just kind of throwing things over the fence to other managers. And those managers really can't see the full picture of what's going on. So in remote work, there's this big emphasis on systems, big emphasis on democratizing workflows so everybody can kind of see where this person's at. And then the last thing is detailed metrics. So tracking onboarding milestones, letting all the managers be able to see that data, and then having triggered alerts so that they don't have to go find the data. It just comes to them, like this person needs to do this next step. So that's what think about when I think about crucial onboarding.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I think one of the things you said there is a lot of the times managers get a section or a slice of what needs to be done for onboarding. And I've gone through some really good onboardings and I've gone through some really bad ones. And obviously, it's like everything else. You really remember the bad ones, but you don't necessarily remember the good ones. But it really separates what your perception of the company is and how they're bringing you on. And if onboarding isn't on point, what do you think the chances are for people to stay long-term realistically? You have to have that crucial onboarding point, and it costs so much money to onboard somebody as it stands anyway. Might as well do it really efficiently. And really it looks like ConveYour has really seemed to simplify that process of launching these engaging trainings compared to traditional training methods as well. So from your opinion, Stephen, like how does ConveYour compare to the traditional way of doing things to how you're approaching them now?
Yeah. So first thing is I am not I don't throw punches or don't pull my punches when I talk about this, but I am not a big fan of really big, large like training courses that, in my opinion, are kind of driven by vendors, like vendors selling bells and whistles versus what's really effective and matches how we consume information right now. So if you think about how we consume content, it's like through short videos, text, messages that are sent to us, dark social, things like that. That's how we consume content. I asked you a question, Brock, and I know there's a time and place for hyper interactive experiences, right? And hyper, contextual training and things like that. In fact, we're building some of these types of things out for larger experiences. But let me ask you, like, when's the last time you went through like a traditional LMS course that was like really big, that you finished, right?
It's been a while. I would say probably a year. I did just for my own edification, I wanted to become MDM certified for a program called JAMP. And that was a pretty extensive one. And I did finish it, but let me tell you, it was mind-numbing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is the best explanation. The way I show people how silly like this can be sometimes is, let's say, do you have kids?
Oh, yeah. I have two of them. Well, at least two that I know of.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
How old are they?
They're 10 and 12.
Okay. So 10 and 12 is perfect. Like, if you were trying to teach kids to pick up socks that they left around the house, would you put on a costume, design a jingle, make a slide deck, and then sit them down and present this incredible, and then like make it really interactive and present this thing about like picking up socks? Or would you have a small lesson about the importance of picking up socks and picking up after yourself? And then every once in a while, like pop in and say, hey, did you pick up your socks? Hey, are these your socks? Did you pick up your socks?
They're way more.
Which one's more effective?
Well, for my kids, to be honest with you, if I did the second half, but I did wear a costume, it would be even more effective. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, it makes a lot more sense to just, hey, here's a quick idea, and then here's little reminders as you go along. It's far more effective than, let me show you a stage play for 45 minutes about why the importance of stocks is, detrimental to your health if you don't do it.
Right. And so my thing about this is that it's commonly like very little information just inflated into this really hyper dynamic experience. And it's like, who is really winning in that process? And in some ways, it's really about the person that created, no offense, but created the experience is winning in that, not the actual company designing for an outcome or the employee. Okay. And so our thought is really about like this concept of like high intensity training, where you've got, a bit of like striking a balance between presentation in formats we're really used to on mobile devices, video, text, sometimes a PDF, a file, and then backfilling that with Socratic teaching through engagement formats. Put these in the correct order. The things you see in e-learning, but it's micro learning, right? So this is the concept of micro learning, reducing the forgetting curve, making it stick. These are all books that we are informed by. The other thing that we focus on for making engaging training is this big emphasis, especially this is how we kind of grew ConveYour. It's this really big emphasis on, I keep saying emphasis, on this idea that the single most precious resource you have with your employees is their attention. And what you commonly see with companies that grow, like as they scale, they get an artificial scale, which is around departmentalizing, right? So what used to be done by one person is now done by 3 different departments. Your recruiting is done in a different department with different tools in different ways. Your training, your onboarding, and your training and your engagement are all done in different ways, right? Then you're going to have, if you get big, you're going to have like an employee engagement task force, right? And you're going to have all these different task forces, and they're all getting more efficient in their own right. But what actually happens is it creates a more fragmented. You're asking for more fragmented experience for the employee, and you're asking for more of their time because each department doesn't know what the other department's doing, right? Or how much interaction's going on. And you see this, if you just flip it and you're not an employee and you're a customer, think about a large bank experience versus like a startup experience, right? Wildly different. And everybody, what's funny is it's the cycle is everybody really wants the small company experience until companies get really, really big and it's a tax that they have to pay, which is departmentalization. So our emphasis, what we do, coming back to like how we think about training is, what if you could tell somebody something, like train something, like teach on an announcement or something, then quiz them on an announcement you had last week, and then also pulse them about how they're feeling about this new change, right, all in a single little vignette, like a little experience that they got on their device, okay? All at once. And then immediately tweak your messaging based off of their response, segment people based off of how they respond, and you get a faster, quicker feedback loop. And the barrier for having 3 different jobs to be done is all done in much smaller package, right? 15 to 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the concept we've really pushed is how can you do more with that 10 minutes or 15-minute window than you would normally break that up into a Survey Monkey, and then you'd break it up into a big email, right? And then you'd break it up into an LMS course. How can you make it more potent, so to speak? So, and then, of course, again, creating a better balance between testing, recalling, and making it kind of like high-intensity training when you go to the gym, right? It's like you don't have to have all these crazy apparati to do training. You could come in with a little trainer, work for 15 minutes, do some high-intensity, push-ups and jumps and squat, like burpees and things like that, and then get out, right? Yeah. That's the kind of way we think about this stuff.
And I think that makes a lot of sense, especially with the transition in how society has really gone from, in my opinion, having a shorter and shorter attention span. You look at, we used to have longer movies. Now they're almost all down to 90 minutes. TikTok's a huge phenomenon. YouTube, you want to keep videos to a certain length. So all those things correlate in how we think on a day-to-day basis and how we're really ingesting information. Now, one of the things you also mentioned as well was about engagement of employees. So realistically, with all the emails, calendar invites, deadlines that happen for these employees on a day-to-day basis, how does ConveYour deliver those engagements to employees so that the end company ensures that those messages are not only received, but they're actually read and they're actually applied?
Yeah, this is a really good question. We get this question a lot from customers. So first, I'll just say, use SMS. If you're not using SMS as a channel, please start using it. Work it into the culture of the company. Figure out a way to get legal to be cool with it.
It's crazy how that's a big barrier for a lot of companies.
Yeah, it is.
It's such an easy touch point too.
Yeah, it is. I think they're just worried about. It's always okay to send an email to inbox, corporate inbox. Sending a text to their line is just like, if I get them in the wrong spot. So, you got to think about it. You got to think about that journey of how they're going to get messages. I wrote down here, you increase attention by reducing message noise. So it's not so much that you can't get their attention. It's just that you have increased, you make everything urgent. And again, back to those departments, is every department is sending their own messages that are quote unquote urgent. And so it's like, dude, you say everything's urgent and you don't have any of my attention. I'm just going to try to do my role, and I'll cherry pick what I think is, we have all done that, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so I think first it does help to do kind of a communication audit. If you can go to your IT team and be like, could you just give me an average amount of messages that are coming from these domains, right? And break it down for me and do some metrics on that. That's amazing. That can be a big lift if you're at a big company or a small company. So you can at least do a qualitative, like maybe just get out of the building and talk to a few, so to speak, talk to a few employees and just like, hey, describe for me like how many messages you think you get from our LMS and from this and from that, or from different, for different reasons. Just give me an idea, and just go do some interviews and just be like, oh, I just don't know. Like I get probably 10 a week, from this thing. And then I got these things too. So just getting an idea is helpful. But the biggest culprit to lack of engagement due to noise is not having a system that allows you to not send the common denominator message. So commonly in training, especially, this is how we're getting into hyper adaptive, training experiences through workflows and our new workflow system, is commonly if you don't have the tools to segment like a marketer and create timely messages to niche audiences in your corporation, you will just send the lowest common denominator message. We've all seen these. If you're in this department, you will, this applies to you. But if you're not in this department, it doesn't apply to you. Well, Then why did you just only send it to those people in that department? Like, why am I getting this message? Why are you making me pay the tax of reading the if this then that logic in your message so that I can then say this doesn't apply to me and archive it? Okay.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm not saying you're doing this. I'm like accusing you of doing it. Well, you get what I'm saying. And so that's a big problem. So if you need to have a system where you can quickly segment based on behavioral information around how people are behaving in your LMS or in your training, where they're at in the onboarding process, as well as what's in their profile. Okay. So marketers, if you're not going from a marketing, background, you got to realize, like, marketers think like this all day long. They think about having a right message for the exact audience. They will ask people questions in emails, which will then turn them into a smaller subset of a segment so they can send them a message, right? This is all, funnels and marketing, email automation. All of that stuff applies to employees, okay? Because in this day and age, like, employees are kind of like your customers, right? In a way, and you're trying to keep their attention and sell them on something, which is taking action. You're actually asking for an order, which is, I want you to take action on something, and you better be sure that is applicable to them, right? Or you're gonna lose their attention trust, so to speak.
Yeah.
And so again, we do that a lot with hyper-segmentation. The way we do that is every single thing that people answer in their training portal, their onboarding portal, or messages they receive, can be immediately used to create a new dynamic segment. So if somebody says, yes, this applies to me, like, do you want more training on X? And they click yes, you have a group that immediately puts everybody that answered that exact poll question that way, which you can then automate the release of a scheduled email, text message, or another training based on that. So it shoots and ladders, right? It shoots and ladders. And again, going back to like separate departments, you commonly see somebody does a survey on SurveyMonkey or something, and then that goes out, and then people answer, and eventually, like 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, somebody will get like that sheet exported from that system, and then it'll maybe get into another email system, and it's stale, right?
Yeah,
and
it's
so
already got multiple hands it's gone through.
That's the common problem. So we commonly see people use our system a lot for like change management, product initiatives, quick, like rapid, communication where you're trying to, move the cruise ship a different direction, right? And we're good for that. So that kind of, does that help answer the question of how do we deliver training that actually gets read?
Absolutely, it does. And one of the things you mentioned in there is that the employees are really like your customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we talked a little bit about onboarding already, but I know that ConveYour also does onboarding automation as well. So why
Yeah.
is that so important right now? Probably more than it ever has been before.
Yeah, it comes back to what we were talking about with running remote. Okay, your first question. It's uncommon for a company to add a new employee and not give that person like 10 software tools nowadays.
Right.
Okay, it's uncommon to have, you just add the person and they don't have lots of different tooling, lots of different systems they need to log into. And that's the nature of remote work, right? Like picking best of breed, technologies to put them in. So that's one culprit. The other thing is distributed teams have their benefits, but you pay an orchestration tax. And I actually, even though we were remote we've always been remote, like since I started the company. Only when we really started to grow the team did I really go like, wow, we still have so much to learn about running a remote company. And orchestration, like intentional orchestration, is the tax you pay of having the benefits of a remote team. And so onboarding automation is one of those things which you could just replace those two words with orchestration.
Yeah.
Think about the billion-dollar industries that have come out of server technology, like Kubernetes. Okay, so Kubernetes, built by Google, was all about the benefits of isolated workers and systems and serverless and all this stuff. And then like, oh no, this is really hard. Let's build an entirely crazy, complexly powerful tool called Kubernetes just to keep these individual little jobs to be done running as a cohesive system, right?
Right.
And so it's necessary because we need to pay that tax, that orchestration tax. And then the other thing that I think what makes onboarding so crucial, like having good onboarding automation, is now whether gig economy is a thing to stay for a long time, whether it actually plays out for the companies. Think about it's still in our zeitgeist, right? Like it's still in the way we think now as far as gig economy. And it is playing not just both sides, and not just the company seeing it as an option for them, but also how employees think about opportunities. And so tenure is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, I think, for like across the board. And so if tenure is getting smaller and smaller, that means that onboarding occurs more, regardless of what company you're in.
Yeah.
Okay. And if onboarding is something that is happening more and more and more, if you're incredibly good onboarding is similar to good onboarding as a customer now, right? So if you're thinking of employee tenure as 5 years, the customer tenure maybe 2 years or 1 year, 6 months or whatever. Everybody works on their customer onboarding, but nobody really works hard on their. I mean, I'm not saying they don't, but like you got to make it amazing.
That's hard.
It's going to be table stakes at some point if tenure keeps going down. Having an incredibly lightweight. And here's the way I think about this. Think about Uber. So the first time you ever used Uber, this is how I describe good experience to people. They're like, they thought of everything. Like I didn't have to, I didn't have to like call the guy or the gal come in, to show up. It alerted me when the driver was here. I knew their name. I knew their rating. I got in. I mean, it was astonishing the first time we did it, right? And then I got out and like, what do I do? And then it like alerts like, you're done. And do you want to tip them and give them a rating? I'm like, cool, thanks. Like it was phenomenal. And I'm sure we all said something like, why can't a lot of things be like that Uber experience?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now think about the fact that Uber is doing that blind to the prospect. So somebody told them about Uber and they downloaded it, and Uber has zero pull on the person that just downloaded that app. They can't be like, you have to do this onboarding experience because I told you so to, because you're now an employee, right? There's no, they could just be like, nope out at any time in that process. I'm like, this is stupid. Like, so what did they do? Knowing that they have zero, none of that like context of like, you have to do this. They didn't lean on that. They didn't lean on their company brand or the fact that this person got hired. They made an exceptional experience. And as the gig economy stuff stays around, you're going to have more and more people being like, I don't care if I just got recruited. I'm out. Like, this is stupid. I'm going to move on to something else. And it's going to get more competitive after the recruiting phase. because the onboarding experience actually extends beyond just onboarding, because it's how they think about your company and the opportunity after 2 weeks of onboarding, right? So it's like the
Yeah.
recruiting process now is not just, I'm very opinionated about this because I think it's not
No.
just the first, oh, I'm recruited and I'm here to stay, like I'm here,
Right.
right? It's like,
It's not how
no,
it used to be, where people would just stay at a company for 20 years anymore. They'll
right.
bounce so much
Yeah,
quicker than they ever would before.
exactly. And they won't stick it out and be like, well, I made my bed and this is where I'm going to be. And I'll go through these 19 emails that I got about my onboarding process. It's not the way it is anymore. So,
Nope. It is a grass is always greener on the other side society right now. If
yeah,
this ain't
yeah,
working, something else will, realistically.
exactly.
And honestly, there's enough jobs out there that if you're not happy with your current role, leave. There's
Yeah.
other jobs that are out there and plenty of companies who are looking for great talent.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
some companies that know how to onboard people really well, too.
yeah,
If you need to know
exactly.
more, talk to Steven about ConveYour.
Yeah. Yeah. And we see this a lot. It's funny. We see this a lot with companies where they kind of have a chip on their shoulder about like they want to get high quality talent, but they want it to kind of hurt. Like we want people with grit. And, if there's a barrier, then it's not going to, then we might not get the right people. I'm like, you're
Right.
totally thinking about this wrong. That person knows their talent level and they just won't put up with it. It's
Right.
not like you don't have information arbitrage anymore where you would find a role through a friend or through, some localized ad or something like that. Right.
Right.
Where you couldn't get reviews on the company or working there or look on social, you'd be like, okay, this is my few options right now. Now it's like I can look at 7 other options like your company to figure out, if there's other opportunities for myself. So now on a flip side, right now we're in probably like a company. On the flip side, if recruiting gets tight, like it's very difficult for a company to recruit. People usually look to like just get more get more people, but they're forgetting that if you really calculate the cost per recruit and calculate the full the full overloaded cost with including onboarding, all right, then the cost per recruit is high, right? If you can
Right.
improve your onboarding, it kind of feeds the legs, like it's like that basketball, like feed the wolf by having good legs, right?
Right.
If you reduce that, then you're actually reducing the cost per. It's just like in SaaS software, like in my business, it's
Yeah.
like if you improve onboarding, improve trial conversion, all of that, then you have more courage to go, spend money on ads and get more customers, right?
Yeah,
And
that
so,
operational cost can then be recalculated and re-put into a different part of the business. There's really
That's
no
right.
reason not to do that.
Yep.
So for any companies that are looking to potentially go this way,
Mhm.
can the ConveYour platform be integrated with other systems that the companies might be potentially utilizing today?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Okay.
a common thing is we can sync with some HRIS systems right now, like out of the, just working with our team, a technical team, we can get you synced up that way. So, typically you have a applicant tracking system that you want to sync with us. People use this for recruiting, so doing kind of adaptive recruiting flows and presentations of the opportunities using that. We're connected to Zapier, so any application that uses Zapier, you can sync your people to us very easily through like hey, when their contact is created in this CRM or this system, pop it over to us. We also have just a super easy way of like sending us any contact through a very simple API. It's very similar to like segment.com or some of these like website analytics tools like Mixpanel. And it's a little different than a typical LMS. It's actually easier to get a contact in. And then the other one that I'm really excited about with data in, kind of categories this is data in, data out, and what I'm excited about. But tracking outside events is something that we're really excited about. Meaning, I'm going to send an event to ConveYour when they join or leave a WebEx meeting. Okay. Or I'm going to send an event about this person doing it's usually just a verb, like join meeting,
Right.
Went to class, like whatever. When you do that, you start being able to segment based on things that are really actually happening in the daily life of that employee.
Okay.
And you can use that to automate follow-ups. So for example, let's say you did a WebEx workshop, all right? And you don't want to do the manual work of like, who came to the meeting? Oh, these people. And then you just automate it. Like it'll automatically follow up and do that forgetting curve testing on that workshop.
That's
based
cool.
off of the fact they, went through the WebEx. So very excited about that. And we've had that for many years, but just trying to promote it a little bit more because it's you'll commonly see people analytics. Okay. This is like a people analytics feature. Data out, everything that we do in ConveYour as far as answering questions and lessons and stuff is an event feed, and you can pipe that to your data lake and to other analytics tools using segment.com. And Segment's really a great tool. It's owned by Twilio now, but it basically is a feed of behavior about your people. And then we've got, of course, got the full API, reporting API. And then this is I gave you the long answer, but we have this ability to embed. We're working on an ability to embed entire like dashboards of how people are doing into other products. So if you don't have reporting, really good reporting for your training, tools and stuff, you can embed this for your middle management to see, which is back to that whole democratized data and workflows. And then lastly is we've been talking to a lot of companies more about embedding our lesson system into their applications and their workflows. So they don't want somebody to leave. This is good for them. They want to keep the experience in their native app. They already have like a native app for their project managers or their people, but they want to add training from us because it's easy to create into their native app. So we can actually embed the entire portal into a native app or do individual lessons that can like pop up inside your iOS application or Android application. So that I'm excited about that a lot, where it's more of using embeddables, so to speak, to extend your existing workflows and use cases.
And I love that idea of just being able to have a data out of everybody that hopped onto a meeting or anything like that. It's just, again, it's another one of those operational tasks that they just take time. They take time and effort that we don't have to expound on those types of things.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, if there were a company that was interested in utilizing the ConveYour platform, or for their company, or just making a change, if they want to really see what sort of operational efficiencies they can increase by utilizing that, what's a good way for them to begin that? Is there a first step that you would recommend?
Yeah, I'd say schedule a demo. We would love to hear about what you're trying to accomplish. They don't have to be a long demo. It could just be 15 minutes where we just hear you out and say, hey, let's play devil's advocate. Are we a good fit for you? Or we can do a longer demo. Like I know I've checked out all your videos and all that, and I want a full demo with my team. We'll leave the link here, but it's just basically ConveYour.com. Schedule a demo is the link.
Awesome.
So, yeah,
I think anybody who hops on, you'll be very, very impressed. So, last question for a bit of fun, because I can't help myself.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, what is one piece of technology that you simply cannot live without on a day-to-day basis?
Okay, so I was going to say no. I'm going to make an honorable mention. I was going to say Notion, but everybody knows Notion. I've been using Notion forever, and it runs our entire business as a remote company. But the new one I've just found recently, and I'm just thrilled about it, is called Workona. So Workona is a Chrome. It sounds just blah. It's just a Chrome extension or Chrome tab and window manager, but literally it has changed the way I work. Like within one click, you can go from, and I can share my screen if you want to see it, but like in one click, it allows you to flip between entire set of window tabs and windows.
Oh, that sounds brilliant.
And it's incredible. So if you're like, okay, I'm working on business right now, business stuff, and then you have your 19 tabs for business, and then you switch and it goes and it shows you all the other ones. And it remembers all of them. So if you accidentally close your Chrome, it remembers every single one and every single workspace you have.
That's amazing. I'm one of those alt-tabber guys too, where I'm flipping between screens constantly. So I literally do a version of that, right? But it's like, here's one version of the web browser that I have, and then here's another one. This one has 7 windows open. Then I flip to this one. It's got 9. That would make life a lot easier. And then I've done that where you close the windows. You're like, no, I have to reopen all 9 of them now. No.
Yes.
I have to remember which ones I had open.
Yeah.
Completely get it. I think that's a fantastic cool tool. That's
It's a cool
so cool.
tool.
If you don't mind, when we get off, I'm going to ask you to email me the name of that one
Oh,
more
absolutely.
time. I'm
Yeah,
going to go download it for sure.
Yeah.
Steven, seriously, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time to give our audience some insights in the world of adaptive training and onboarding experiences with ConveYour. And then, Steven, of course, if our audience did want to reach out to you directly or to ConveYour for more information, where would be a good place for them to look?
Yeah, just my email. I think it'd be the best thing to shoot me an email. It's Steven@ConveYour.com. So STEPHEN@ConveYour.com.
Fantastic. Thank you for being here. Of course, like I said, thanks to Steven for being here. I also do want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Kincannon XR. If you are in the marketplace or if you're working in the XR world and you haven't dipped your toe into that pool yet, Kincannon XR is here to help you bring your XR dreams to reality. So regardless if you're developing your own XR application or looking for a helping hand to take your idea to the next level, Kincannon is here to help. You can reach out to the Kincannon XR by emailing them at inquire@kincannonxr.com. And of course, you can find our podcast here on social media as well at ETIB Podcast. If you liked this episode, like and subscribe. Check out one of these other videos that'll pop up here for emerging technologies in business. And that's going to do it for today. I've been your host, Brock Rhyne, and we're going to talk some more emerging tech next time. Thanks, everybody.